Lamprey. We're here at Booze Brothers, and thank you so much for jumping on the show, dude.
Of course.
I will say that I didn't even know that you had an animal shelter, but apparently you're doing the Lord's work. You're traveling the world.
Yeah.
You are drinking the best booze possible.
Okay.
You're
sometimes, but yes.
very,
continue.
very, very true.
Sometimes it's whatever is worth remarking on, but yeah.
You're having great conversations with great people. Sometimes, I guess we'll say.
Yeah, not presently.
No. Well, sometimes it depends.
Sometimes, yeah.
And all I'm saying is
Yeah.
that you've tailored your life in a very peculiar way. You've tailored your life to figure out, and not a lot of people can do this, dude. So it is a skill, I would say, to say or to do this. I'm going to do what I like to do. I'm going to get paid to do it. And I'm going to make my life such that I continue doing it until I don't want to do it anymore. And then plus you add an animal rescue into it and just kind of like, okay, cool. So you're just a dope dude.
Oh, I will accept that. I'll accept that. I don't know if ultimately the plan was as you describe it. You know what I mean? Like, I wasn't like, first of all, I moved out to LA from Syracuse, New York, when I was right after college, and wanted to be an actor, and quickly found out that like there was a job called hosting that better suited my personality, and just jumped into that, and then did that for many years. Did acting, did hosting, did things that, nothing really popped, and then I get this not even an audition. There's a few steps to it, but I was always like, I wasn't one of those guys that sat back. And I think maybe I'm in the position that I'm in because of that mindset.
Right.
I never waited for things to come to me. And so I would always go out and try to find it. So I went out and went to Circuit City and opened up a charge account to like buy a video camera to start making hidden camera videos, and then I got better at it and started doing other ones and whatever, and then like Merv Griffin saw it, and then I went and made a show for him, and then other people saw it, and then I just was making tapes. Once I did a show for Merv Griffin, and then it was like a hidden camera kind of a show, and it was a little edgy. And Merv Griffin he created Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy and did the Merv Griffin show. He was a lounge singer. He was.
That's pretty PG.
Yeah, he wasn't edgy at all. Yeah. And so when we finally made the show, his son was the director of it. He looked at it. He's like, I can't do anything with this. I'm sorry. This is like,
how edgy are we talking?
I mean,
to Merv Griffin. I mean, what is edgy? Everything's probably edgy.
That's true. It was kind of like it was called Fester. And which is already edgy, but I went around to different festivals, and if the festival was like benign, like there's something called let me think, the Lobster Festival in San Pedro, and
innocent.
Then I went dressed up as a lobster, asking people if they've ever had crabs before, and then now we're getting into it, and then I go to the Testicle Festival in Clinton, Montana, and there I'm just myself trying to understand what it is. So it's kind of a mix. It's like the crazier the festival, the more I am myself. We need something interesting. If it's boring, I'm going to be interesting. If it's interesting, I'm going to be myself. And so I went and did that, and then that show did not. I mean, he didn't want to do anything with it. He didn't want to put his name on it.
No.
So I had the tape. I just edited it down. Like, we had a pilot episode. I edited that down to like 5 minutes, and I sent it everywhere. And I wrote a note, said, hey, I just did a show for Merv Griffin. It's a little too edgy for him, but he told me to send it to you. And he didn't. But
cool.
If anybody was actually able to get Merv Griffin on the phone, then I got them talking about me, and big deal. So like I knew that it's, it wasn't going to bite me the butt, and even if it did, it would have done it in an amazing way.
And you knew that very early on.
And I also knew that if they got a thing that says Merv Griffin said send it to me, then I open it. So people did, and one of the companies that did, I didn't realize that this is how this had happened. I got an audition to go in and do this. Host a show called You Should Open a Restaurant, and I go in there and they're just like, yeah, you're not really right for this show, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, thanks for calling me down. They're like, no, we got a show called Three Sheets where you travel around the world and drink. Is that something you want to do? I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
Where's the hidden camera? So that's it. And then a lot of my okay, so this year I'm doing like in present time, this will probably be in the past once this comes out, but in 10 days I'm shooting my second Amazon Prime stand-up special.
Hell yeah, go you.
And I shot my last one about a year ago. And the special, as you guys will see in the stand-up tonight, like, because right now what I'm doing is I'm doing a bunch of warm-up dates to kind of get my brain programmed to the act. Because I just took like 2 months off and I kind of got to get reprogrammed, and I'm doing a bunch of shows, and then boom, rolls right into the special at Golden Road in Huntington Beach, California, and so it all kind of tells a story. Like last year it told a story, this year it tells a story, next year I don't know what next year's stand-up will be, but it'll be different. And this just kind of shows about like how the evolution of how I got this show and everything like that. But it's not me telling a big long story. It's jokes and little anecdotes.
Right.
But
But you've tailored that into like, so this storyline that you don't have though. You're strategically in every special kind of getting a little bit more into the weeds about.
I'm getting a little less. What I'm kind of doing is I'm working on getting out of the weeds. So since like 2006, I've been traveling around the world drinking. I've done over 100 episodes, 72 different countries, and I have a lot of stories. And so the first special was a bunch of those stories, a lot about my buddy Steve McKenna, who was my best friend and a bonehead. And so like that was special number one. Number two is a few more of the stories, completely different stories, but it kind of tells the story. It has a story arc and kind of works its way through. And so once I'm done, that's it. I probably got about 2 solid hours of stories about my travels and whatever. And now I'm kind of working back into the present so that next year my stand-up will be more about what's happening now. I don't want to be like, oh, it's a guy, all he does is talk about when he was doing a show like 10 years ago. Like, no, those are amazing stories. Like me in Russia with a machine gun and just like me naked in Denmark, like just crazy things that happened that I got to get out there, put them in the special, and then they're done. You want to know about it, go watch that special, so what you guys see tonight is that, and you'll kind of learn about this arc.
But the thing is also, you haven't really stopped. I mean, your YouTube page is constantly producing content.
Right.
Zane's World, you have all of these things that are, so you maybe not be doing stand-up, but you're always doing shit.
Zane's World, I'm going to do it right now.
That's pretty rad.
Yeah.
Rick, you saw the special.
Really cool.
Yeah. One of the funny things is when I first got into,
I'm now, so as far as people, so I do I think a weekly YouTube vlog. It's my whole week. I shoot when something interesting happens. Sometimes it's about shit going on at home. Sometimes I'm on the road. Right now it's a mixture of both because I'm staying at home, but then I'm doing all my shows on the road. So I'm here with Rick and Jeff, and we are at Booze Brothers, and these are not the Booze Brothers. They are imposters. And it looks weird. It looks weird because it looks like in the video that I'm doing with my phone that I'm holding a microphone that is somehow plugged into the phone, but it's not.
But it's not.
So,
So the audio is going to be a little off.
I'm doing a podcast. It's called The Boilermaker. No, what's it called? Boil Over.
Boilermaker's good. But it's Boil Over. The Boil Over.
Boil Over. It's a beer podcast, and I'm on it. And now I'm going to go do it and turn this off. Perfect. Okay, there, I made it.
Never not working. That's like
that's
the thing.
Yeah.
But one of the cool things is that you've kind of jujitsu'd life into producing stories for you. It's like, I'm going to go around and I'm going to drink and I'm going to go have fun. And that's the only fucking story people want to hear. That's
it's interesting because when I was doing it, making 3 sheets and then drinking made easy, I was the content that I was collecting was the content that I was making for the show. And now when I think about it, it's like the most interesting stories were the things that happened when the cameras were off. And so now that's kind of what I'm doing. So you're right. It's like you go and you take foreign country, foreign people, new friends, and alcohol. There is a story that's going to happen in many of those situations.
Put that shit into a Vitamix, dude. Yeah. And you're going to get...
That's it.
You're going to get fucking
just
hodgepodge.
Shake it up and see what happens. And sometimes you get people like... I had what's called a fixer. And a fixer is like your location scout, your translator, your boots on the ground, so that you pre-produce this thing, so that when you land, but before you land, you have a schedule that lays out the 4 or 5 days that you're there shooting, sometimes 3 days. You don't have a lot of time. Time is money. People need to get paid. Hotels, food, everything. So you need to maximize your time. Yeah. And so the fixer does this. And when we were in South Africa, we had a fixer, and really nice guy, like a tall, handsome guy, really just confident and smart, and he was fantastic. And one time we had to go shoot in this bar, and the guy that we were going to sit and talk to didn't show up. And we're like, can you do it? He's like, yeah, sure. And we had a driver, so he was going to go ahead and drink. And he got really drunk really quick, like so drunk, and
surprisingly,
whoa,
dude, are you serious?
It was like we were talking for 40 minutes, and in minute 30, it was like, we got to cut. He's just like, and he was such like a together, like just classy guy. And when he got drunk, so at minute 30, he starts like making fun of other customers at the bar. Bro, where'd you get that sweater? Oh my God, that's so ugly.
Just roasting everybody.
I'm like, dude, what are you doing? This is not what we do. And it's like, if it was funny, if he was charming, we would have kept going. But people were getting insulted. I'm like, okay, dude, I'm not with him. I'm kind of what I was.
Dude, you're like mean.
Yeah, it's exactly right. It's exactly right.
Did we know that? Dude, it's so often. And it's probably the inner comic that everybody wants to be. Hey, I got a couple here. Let me tell you a joke. And you go, oh, no, dude, no, that's not appropriate.
Yeah.
And you're two 4.5 beers deep.
Yeah.
We got to fucking.
I mean, I have a rule. So like, and this is why I'm kind of nursing this beer, that I go on stage sober. Like I go on stage not having drunk, because I want to go on there sharp. And then when I start to dull, my senses and some of my decision making, and I want to do it at the pace that I can kind of keep. Whereas if this is my 235th stand-up show at a brewery since COVID, since June 3rd of 21.
Wow.
And so, like, every time we go to a brewery, they're like, I mean, you guys know the brewery culture, craft brewery culture is amazing. You walk in, hey, how are you? Like, it didn't used to be a thing 20, 30 years ago. And then before that, where you went in and the owner of the brewery and the brewer were both there to like tell you, oh, try my new this that I do this.
They're at the bar.
They're at the bar.
Yeah.
Like that's what makes the local brewery scene amazing, is like you're going in and you're talking to the people that make it, and they can tell you why they made decisions. And every time you go into a different craft brewery, you have a different menu. It is statistically impossible to ever find two matching menus at two different breweries. It's impossible.
Did you know that, Rick?
It's impossible.
I know it.
It's impossible.
Yeah.
There are infinite variations. And so when we go to a brewery, we walk in, and the first thing they want to do is like give you a beer. They give you another beer. And so we started off doing this and be like, sure, we take a few beers. And then you're like, ooh, I'm buzzed. I'm going on stage. And then, your buzzed guy is just maybe, not to say I'm not as nice, but maybe I'm just like a little edgier or whatever it is. And like, I don't need the booze to do the jokes.
Yeah,
like,
you
I
also
got
have a
it.
quiver full of arrows, dude. You're a professional, like,
true.
roaster. You're like,
true.
yeah, I think I got one for this guy. He's not going to, and then he immediately gets routed.
My
purposely missed the apple on your head, dude.
My quiver are the jokes, and then my bow is the microphone, because whether you like it or not, I'm the loudest guy in the room. So even if you ever win an argument against me, you're not going to win it. You know what I mean?
You're funny, and what I've been able to see throughout the all the clips that I've seen on you, watching your podcast, Crafts and Crafts, like, it's good. I like what you're doing. We've been in this industry for a long time. We're in San Diego. It's a hodgepodge of I can throw a rock out the window and hit another great
What's the number? I remember
it's like 160 at this point.
Yeah, I think so.
When I was doing Drinking Made Easy, we went down there, and I think it was 33. And the reason that was significant is because we mapped it out, and we almost made the San Diego episode of Drinking Made Easy going to every single brewery. And there was a guy that we talked to who had done it. Now, impossible. It's just not.
You're not going to do it in one day. You can
can't.
definitely do it in
Even
like
if you just
3.
went and just took a shot of beer and went to the next one, it's like just with the traffic that we had to deal with to get here, you know what I mean? I just don't think it's possible.
But you're right. You're right in the sense where like the appeal about like a craft brewery, because I hear this shit all the time, right? It's like, what's new? This place is so boring. All they have is X, Y, and Z. And then you go, well, dude, actually, it's pretty interesting that they were able to put this next to this, and their portfolio is way different than the place across the street. And like you said, I guarantee it that you're going to be experiencing a different beer in the same style, by the way.
Sure.
But you're going to be experiencing a different beer.
Different ABV, different ratio of ingredients.
Everything.
You know this more than I do.
Well, I don't know about that, dude. You know quite a bit. And my question was,
I don't even know what beer's made from, and I don't even know what it costs. I haven't paid for a beer since 2005.
jeez, fucking drop right there, dude. No, I love it.
It's a funny thing to say. Of course I have, but
I run that on the bill.
I'm not always like at a brewery doing a show. Sometimes at a restaurant, I'm like, I'm not paying for this. Like, sir, you need to pay. We don't know who you are. It wouldn't matter if we did anyway. So
Look, dude, you've done something very interesting for the booze culture. Like, especially right now, right? Like, you're seeing this emergence of this NA industry really taking over. And what I mean by that is just non-alcoholic, right? Which I think is super cool. People ask me all the time what I think about it, and I go like, dude, I'm glad it exists. What are you talking about?
But when it started, because so I had a buddy, he was like an NFL player. He's always approached by investment opportunities, and he's like, and he doesn't drink, and he's like, hey, I got this new spirit brand. It's non-alcoholic, and I was like, I don't get it. And to this point, for non-alcoholic spirits, I don't get it. I don't get it.
What's the quantum leap that you have to take from getting it with, like, let's say beer?
Yeah.
And then, like, the spirits? Because I agree with you.
Because spirits, so for beer, I'm going to transition into that. I completely get. But for spirits, it's like, okay, so you make a non-alcoholic gin. So that's like water with juniper? I don't know. And then
botanicals?
Yeah, with botanicals in it. And then like so I guess they do some sort of ionization, osmosis, something so that the water or the liquid, whatever it is, like it doesn't spoil, because like obviously like alcohol is a preservative, so things are going to be preserved. Water, not the case. Like, if you put things in, technically like it'll go bad. So if you open like a bottle of juice and then you just left it on the counter, you couldn't drink it the next day. But somehow with this stuff you can. Okay, so it's magic. We've established that. But if then you're going to go off and you're going to have like, okay, what are you going to have? A gin and tonic. So now I'm taking tonic. This stuff, I don't know, and I just
the way you're describing it makes me not trust it.
I just
and I don't know if I did, but no, I definitely don't.
I just don't understand it at this point, because I guess if you miss a flavor, like who's having it? Okay, now that being said, with beer, we've kind of grown up with like the, the O'Douls, the other thing when someone's like, oh, I don't want to have a drink, then you give them a beer, and you're just like, I don't know about this stuff.
Yeah.
But now there's like, and again, you know more about this than I do, but there's multiple methods now to make non-alcoholic beer or to pull the alcohol out of the beer. And I had somebody on Crafts and Crafts is my buddy, and he's like, what do you want? I'm like, IPA. I'm like, oh, okay, I got an IPA, and it was a non-alcoholic IPA, and he sat there and drank it. I'm like, what do you think of this? He's like, this is good IPA. And he drinks a bunch, like to the point he appreciates it, and he was like, this is a good IPA. I'm like, there's not any alcohol in that, and I was like, that's kind of interesting.
At what point does alcohol become one of the pivotal and most crucial parts of the enjoyment factor? That's the question. It's kind of like, hey, I'm gonna get a non-alc. Like, do you drink any non-alcoholic stuff?
No, I don't.
But why? That's a good question. Okay.
Why? What's wrong with, why are you better than other people?
He's definitely better than me.
But I don't know why.
It's
something that I don't know. I
How much of it have you tried?
I've tried a little bit. I've tried a little
Like,
bit.
you tried any the craft ones? Like some of them are actually good.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I've tried them, and I kind of just, I don't know. I just don't get it. Like,
Yeah.
it's just kind of like, okay, it's just there. I'm like, why would I have that when I have the stuff with alcohol in it? That's always been my thing.
Okay, but
Yeah.
that I guess really doesn't answer the question, but it does suggest that there's something beyond just the actual taste,
Like,
and
what
the
if-
feeling of the beverage.
Yeah, like what if it was like a beer, like you like an IPA?
Yes.
Okay, so it's an IPA and it tastes just as good as another IPA, but it's only 2% alcohol.
Yeah.
You know, or 3% alcohol, or 1. Like there you start to go like into like different realms, because when I go on stage and I come in and have a beer, I will usually have one of the lower ABVs because I just want to like pace myself and
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
I mean, I remember one time I went to my buddy John Buford at Arizona Wilderness Brewing in Phoenix, and went out there, and this was like I don't know, like for some reason like it was like 8 shows in a row, and I go there and I'm exhausted. I'm gonna do the show, but like I'm like, do you have anything with coffee in it, like a beer with coffee? And he's like, oh yeah, I got it.
Yeah.
And so he goes to the bartender, the beer tender, and says, give me one of the coffee porters. And I was like, and she like reaches for the snifter. And he's like, no, the pint. She's like, kind of give him the look, and he gives her a look. And I saw it.
yeah, like I know what rules.
But I was like, yeah, maybe I didn't see it. I thought I saw it. So he got me like, a 20 ounce or whatever it is, and I go up there and I'm drinking I'm drinking it on stage. I'm like, all right, I got my energy back. I got my mojo. I'm like, what's the ABV of this? He's like 10. I'm like, you motherfucker. Come on, man.
For anybody watching or listening that doesn't understand, it's a rule, right? Like if there's a beer that's above a certain ABV,
6.5, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know, you can still get a pint here in San Diego where we're men. You can get a pint of 7% beer, and it's still in a proper 16 ounce.
But it's just kind of, but even if it is, you're just like, you'll see it up there. You'll kind of know.
Yeah.
If you bring it to somebody, you'll be like, but it's in that realm. It's 6 to 8. Like definitely if it's an 8+, you're going to be like, and you got a pint of it, you'd be like, pace yourself on that one.
Right.
Yeah.
And like in our industry, we call them like sneaky beers, right?
Sneaky
like
beer.
It's a dangerous beer,
Yep, that's right.
whatever.
That's right.
And then over the course of time, you realize that it's just a brewer's way of trying to tell you that he thinks he made a really good beer. But then when you really do have a sneaky beer, when you really do, there's no announcement. There's no preamble. That shit is just hitting you, and you go and you're looking at almost like if you ate shrooms by accident. You look at the glass and go, this is not what I thought it was.
Yeah.
Or you
That's
know what I
right.
mean?
That's right.
But you're the perfect guy to ask, because I don't know if your liver doesn't function, but you have like an iron liver. I'm watching your shows, dude, and the sheer magnitude, the amount of ABV percentage points you're ingesting, and your composure. Mm-hmm. I don't think anybody can really do. I don't think a lot of people do that.
It's a little bit. I don't know how to answer that. So I will, and I don't know if it'll be correct or not. But my buddy, this is my buddy Steve McKenna. Again, my best friend. He doesn't drink anymore, but this was his reasoning, and it's completely sound. He'd have a beer, that was delicious. I feel good, so I'm gonna have another beer. I feel better. I'm gonna have another beer. If I have 3 beers, I'd feel amazing. How would 7 beers be? Like I would feel incredible. So he just keeps going. I get to a point where I'm like, I feel good, and I'm able to ride that. I call it the 2.5 beer buzz. And I've always kind of been able to get to that point. I can feel it happen. I slow down. I feel it get to low. I bring it back up, and I just kind of ride this thing where. Now, by the way, that I don't always do it quite well. So,
I was gonna say, what's your average? What's your hit rate?
No, once you get to a point, you're just like, whoops, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it would be like, now it's a situation where if like you go out and have a few drinks and whatever, and like if my wife is there and if she's gonna like have a few drinks, let me. Oh, we're having a few. Okay, let's get after it. Let's do this. You know what I mean? Like otherwise, it's just like you kind of said, like I have a lot of things going on. I'm doing, stand-up shows. I'm averaging like 2 or 3 a week, forever. I'm doing my my Crafts and Crafts podcast, which you talked about, where I sit down with a a celebrity guest.
Fucking awesome concept.
We
by the
drink
way.
craft beer and do arts and crafts, and it's so much fun. I'm doing my Zane's World. I have my apparel brand. I have my tour. I have the marketing for my tour. I have employees. And so I'm always just kind of like, I can't help but think about the shit I need to do. Like, this is what happens every time I go home. Whenever I walk in the door, it doesn't matter what I've had to drink or at what time it is, whatever. I turn on the computer and I deal with whatever is there in front of me. Regardless. Sometimes I know stuff I can push to the morning, but sometimes I got to deal with it. The first thing I do when I wake up in the morning on the computer so I just kind of, I have to, it's a balancing act of a lot of things. And the further I get down this road, the more responsibilities I have. But I think back when you're watching Three Sheets,
you're an animal.
Yeah, I think more so, but I was definitely able, it was a show that we just got lucky that was kind of built for my chemistry. But if my buddy Steve McKenna did it, he would have apologized so much just for things. But I always knew two things. One, I had to finish out the show. Two, I got to wake up and do it again and again.
Your
and again.
hangovers look beautiful. You look so great. Is it lotion? You use lotion.
I use lotion. I use lotion.
Dude, I saw in Three Sheets, dude. He ties one on, dude, barely survives it. And then the next morning, he's going to go in to get his wherever he's at, that comfort hangover cure. Yeah. He looks like $1 million. I'm just like, that guy's not hungover. There's smoke and mirrors happening.
He changed the way that I traveled, for the rest of my life.
How so?
I stumbled upon Three Sheets one time. I was at my house and I was flipping through the channels and I was like, what is this show?
Why does this asshole get to do
Why
it? I
is
could
he
do
on my
this guy's job.
I've been doing that since I was
show in
13.
the-
Yeah.
Best career in the world.
Yeah.
And ever since then, though, I loved how you kind of went to all the different places, showed the different cultures, the different traditions, all that stuff. So anytime I started to travel at that point, I was just like, I want to know what the locals are drinking. I want to know what the locals are eating. I want to I wanted to see what the locals do.
Yeah, that was something that was an amazing realization. It was that here's the first thing is we are separated by geography and politics. You remove geography from the mix. Okay, now we're in the same room. There's no politics between us. That's for the politicians. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're from different countries. Our politics don't matter because we're share. There's different politics involved, and so now you're just two people sitting down, having a drink, getting to know each other. One person is visiting, one person lives there, one person wants to know all about the place that they're at, and one person's excited to share it. And that's always the way that it is.
Yeah.
And it's and I mean, my first book kind of covered that thing, and I was just like, if you want to learn about the history of a place, then go around, look at all the monuments and the statues, and that's fantastic and that's great. But you want to learn what it's like to actually live there and the current culture. Just go to a bar and buy somebody a beer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Something will happen. Buy somebody a drink. Something will happen, and you would be surprised, or maybe not surprised, at how excited people are to tell other people about their country, their culture, and everything. And it's
dude, when you distill it down to what you just said, it is just that is the human condition. And I know you're giving us way more time than you even signed up for.
No, that's fine.
But
Okay.
I want to leave. I want to ask you something because I think
fuck it. Keep going.
I think you're.
Are they calling me?
Listen.
I gave 4 minutes.
We
Yeah.
were
I'm supposed to be on stage, but it's fine.
Look, we were talking about what it is about the alcohol.
Oh, no, hold on a
that-
second.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
thought
yeah.
I had to be on it. No, we can go to 7. I thought I had to be on it.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Look,
No, we're good. Yeah.
He hasn't even.
I
He
thought I
hasn't
had to
really
be on
been
it.
drinking.
No,
so
I
I know
no.
that we're not trying to coerce him into.
No, I
let's get
had
drunk.
I had the time wrong. The doors opened now, and then I'm supposed to go on stage at 7. I was thinking it was 6:45.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So
cool.
we'll take it.
We got
We'll
some
take
time.
it.
Yeah.
What I wanted.
Math numbers.
What,
Go.
I fucking hate math and numbers. Are they? They're the same thing, right?
That
Okay.
it's impossible.
It is
impossible
impossible.
for someone who is a brewer to not be good at numbers. Impossible.
I am about to be. You ever read a little book called The Outliers, sir?
Brewing is
Malcolm
it's
Gladwell's about to write
it's
about me.
Art plus math. It's science. It's like, you know, it's like
It is,
Yeah.
but it has artistry behind it. And
Yeah.
when you think about artistry and then you throw in terms or, you know, concepts like symmetry and stuff that's geometry and stuff like that, that is basically...
and specific gravity and
What the fuck is that? I don't even know what the fuck that is. It's so specific. I don't like specifics. I like to be broad. What I was going to say, or ask rather, is that what you touched on right now kind of like ties it back to the question that we had, which is why the fuck do we like the alcohol component anyways?
Okay.
This dude is talking about traveling the world and breaking liquid bread, you know,
Yeah.
interculturally,
Yeah.
right? And you have to stand back and ask, why does that work? Right? Why does every single continent like to catch a buzz? Right? Because they're in the vast majority, I would say.
Sure.
But I'm not good with numbers, so I don't know what the statistics are.
They are.
You heard it from him. And so I would say it has a little bit more to do with the biology of who we are. And if you are an evolution advocate, you would say that if you really take a look back at when we started fucking with fermentation, it was spontaneous, by the way, but when we started fucking with it, it really started to change the genome. So many people wanted this head trip, not just from alcohol, but from other sources or whatever. And I would argue that just like hunger and just like these other innate biological reward systems, I don't know. I think maybe alcohol is one of them. I maybe catching a buzz is something that's important, necessary, crucial to evolution.
You know, it's a good point. I mean, one of the things is like when you sit down and you're talking with someone and you're doing it just at, you know, on the street or whatever it is, it's different than when you're in a place like, call it a cafe or a bar, when you're having a drink. And there's something about the mindset of when you're sitting down having a drink. If you have a drink, you're talking to someone, it means you have time. So that's the first thing you have. You're not in a rush. You're going to sit down and connect with somebody. And then let's be honest, the alcohol does remove some inhibitions, a little bit of self-doubt, where you're able to make a connection. You're able to open yourself up more quickly. And if two people are sitting down and opening up, they're going to find that connection more quickly.
Yeah.
And you get a long way by sitting down and just having a drink with somebody. You learn so much more about them if you just sit down and have a drink. Now, my podcast, Crafts and Crafts, I'm sitting down with a celebrity and having a drink. Some of them I know, some of them are my friends, some of them I'd never met. But at the end of the show, like, they're my friend. You know what I mean? Like, it's this weird thing.
common
Like,
ground.
It is.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
common ground. We found it. They realize, whether they knew what they were getting themselves into, that I'm not looking for the sound bite or
That's it.
trying to make something memorable at their expense. I'm trying to get to know them, and the cameras and the mics are just someone else just eavesdropping on our conversation. And I was talking to my wife about this because, you know, my podcast doesn't make me money. Hopefully at some
None?
point. No,
You're good with numbers.
Hopefully it's,
Why not?
Hopefully it's some, because I want to get it to a certain point. You know what it does? It raises my Q rating and it sells more tickets.
Right.
But I don't have any sponsors right now. And you know, maybe at some point, if a synergistic sponsor comes in, Ballast Point or other, then I will.
Kings of Comics.
Yeah. Then I will. Yeah, there we go. And then, you know, it'll happen. But right now, because I was talking to my wife about it, I was like, I just like going out and collecting friends. You know what I mean? Like, I had a guy, Greg Fitzsimmons. He's
Sober.
He's a very well known. What's that?
He's sober, right?
You know, he is. Yeah. So he's a. You saw the last Crafts and Crafts?
Beautiful dick.
Yeah. Yeah. Drawing.
Oh, that too.
That too. And so he's a very well-known comedian, writer, really one of the most respected comedians in the comedy community. And now he did my podcast twice. I did his a few days ago, and he's like, so my next guest is a friend. I think we're friends. I'm like, yeah, I think we are friends. And it's like, how else was I going to get an opportunity to sit down with Greg? And how else was he going to get an opportunity to sit down with me if I'm just like, hey, dude, I love your work. Let's go grab a beer sometime. Okay, weirdo. No. You know what I mean? Like, that, whatever.
That is such a very interesting thing. And we've noticed, me and Rick, since we started doing the podcast for the brewery,
are you guys ever going to release this podcast, or you just kind of, is it an opportunity just to get to know people?
Rick, that was a dagger to the
trying to
heart.
make friends here. That's all we're trying to do.
You said over the notes.
How many have you shot?
We had a podcast that you and me were working on. It's
Yes.
called Dedicated to the Craft.
Yeah.
That's still out there. It's
80 episodes.
80 episodes.
Yep.
And it was cool. It's great. But the only reason I'm name dropping that one is because it kind of like it scratches the surface of what you're talking about. And I say surface because if you want to go really deep into what it takes for somebody to really open up to a stranger, right? Let alone a friend. That's hard enough. A stranger. It takes a little bit of quote unquote liquid courage sometimes. And what I was trying to get at, and what I'm always trying to get at with our show, for instance, because we have a bunch of different celebrities that would come on our podcast, but we'd have a lot of brewers. And the thing that I'd always say, and Rick, you know this more than anybody, it's like, yo, it's like pulling teeth sometimes because they're so good at, let's say, making beer, which is a very introverted hobby. Like, to get good enough to say, I'm going to fucking open up a brewery and make it my life's work, it's because you spent countless hours by yourself in your garage, in your kitchen, and
With numbers.
with a bunch of gravities, very specific gravities.
We can't tell you what they are.
Yeah, no. We'll cut that out. It's post edit. But I understand that. Now being in the industry, I'm more looking to see what the side effects of catching a good buzz with some of these fucking awesome people are. And sometimes the only way that you can do that, if they're not in their comfort zone, is to, I don't know, kind of coerce it out of them a little bit.
Yeah.
And some of the best conversations you've probably ever had, some of the greatest, most difficult conversations that we've ever had have been over a pint. I mean, there's a reason why, like, hey man, we got to talk. You want to go grab a beer or something like that? Like, it's supposed to set up a stage. I love when people say that they like our beer, but I love even more when the beer itself just doesn't interrupt anything.
Right.
It's like it's good and it's a given. And I'm here and at this brewery, I don't need to talk about the beer.
You mean like there was a time where like the IPAs were getting so like
Enamel written.
it was like it turned into like a solid, it was like green, whatever.
This is just a hop.
Yeah,
This is a
just like
pint of hops.
Yeah, can I get a beer to wash this beer down with? and so now I think that it's kind of leveling out, a little bit. And you're right. Like, you can go in, you can have a beer that you can talk about, or sometimes you can just have a beer like I think the ones that we're having it's just a beer. It's not about the beer. The beer is the conduit for the conversation rather than the subject of it.
That's it.
Yep.
That's it.
Yep.
Right. And when me and Rick sit down and have a beer, because we meet up at breweries all the time, but when we sit down and have a beer, we do the oh, hey, this is good. You like it? Yeah, I like it. Oh, cool. I might get that the next round. And then we're done.
Yeah.
And that, to me, as a brewer,
Hold on, I gotta write down the beer flavor profile.
please do not rate this. Do not rate this. But for me, that's kind of like almost like the biggest compliment that you can say. Now, if the conversation gets hijacked by how bad the beer is, shit.
Well, then it's fun.
No such thing as bad publicity, bruh.
Yeah.
But
I
on the
had
other,
a lot of. By the way, I want to
name drop.
This is the opposite of a name drop.
Name it.
I was in Denver, and I do a Q&A before the show, and this woman raised her hand and she said, "What state has the best beer?" Ooh. And I was like,
Uh-oh.
I
Careful.
Here's my response. I go, I can't even tell you what city or brewery has the best beer, let alone a state. What do you think that a state gets to say? Like, no. Oh, you guys ever been to New Mexico? Best beer. No, what? No one says that.
All of them.
You ever been to California has the best beer. They might have the most beer, but like, what are you talking about? Like every brewery save 1%, whatever. But no, maybe not even true. Like every brewery sets out to make great beer. That's how you stay in business. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if there's something that doesn't work, they fix it. And if they don't find a way to fix it, they go away. You know what I mean? So breweries that have been here for a while are making great beer. Like someone would be like, "Oh, you went to Booze Brothers. What do you think of their beer?" It was great. Great. Oh, you went to Laverne Brewing. What do you think of their beer? It was great. I don't. It's like went to Dallas Point. What do you think of the beer? It was great. Like I was.
Thank God.
But it tasted like beer. So many times people are like, "Oh, have you ever been to such and such and had their beer?" And I'm like, "Yeah." They're like, "Oh, what do you think of it?" I'm like, "It was great." They're like, "Oh yeah, I don't like them." I'm like, what do you not like? I don't know. Like maybe here's the thing. Like we have the macro beers, right, which were around forever, and the point. Arguably, the point of a macro beer was to fit a specific flavor profile. Right. Every macro beer is basically supposed to taste like the baseline of whatever that is. And now you can go off and you can make a lager and you can put your interpretation of that lager. Now, it might taste good to you and it might taste good to you. And I might drink it and be like, "Oh, it's not really for me," whatever. That doesn't make it not a good beer. Just pick something else. You know what I mean?
What's one macro beer that you love? Because I know I have a bunch.
I mean, I don't dislike any of them. I don't. I mean, I think I'll tell you.
Not even Bud Light. I'm just kidding.
No, I mean all of them, really. But I'll tell you this. Okay, I went into Milwaukee, and there's a place called the Bomb Shelter, and the owner there, great guy, and he loved Schlitz. And he would walk in every day, and they put a Schlitz on the bar for him. That's the thing. The bartender saw him walk in. The rule was you put a Schlitz on the bar, you crack it open, he comes over and grabs it. That was like his routine, and it was fun. It was clever. And so I was like, "So what do you drink?" He's like, "Just Schlitz." I was like, "Why?" He's like, "Because I don't like the taste of the other ones." I go, "Interesting." So after a conversation, because we were shooting a scene there, I said, "Let's do this." We set up like 5 or 6 beers of the same profile. So it was a Schlitz. It wasn't a light, regular. So we had like just the usual suspects, right? Like a Miller, a Coors, a Bud, and maybe even a Heineken, whatever. So just all of them. But even like the Heineken, like even an international one. I said, "Okay, $50. Find me the Schlitz. That's all you got to do. You don't have to identify any of them." Nope. Try again. Try again. Nope. 3 tries, missed it. And this is a guy in Milwaukee, swears by it, drinks it every day. Couldn't find it.
But that's because there's so much more to it than just the beer. And I keep saying this.
Right.
We've said this in the show countless times, Rick. Remember, we talked about this. It's like, okay, and this is I always have to give it the synopsis because everyone thinks that because I'm in craft beer, that we like craft beer, there were these snobs that walk around with their pinkies up and going like,
"Well, you are.
I am." No,
that's the way you walked in.
No,
yeah.
I shamed you as soon as he walked in.
He changed into his flannel. Like, "Okay, bro,
There we go.
I didn't have this beer.
Yeah.
Like,
It's a beer just
He took off his ascot.
before you got in
Took off
here.
his sweater vest.
Dude, I took
on a
Zane to the
flannel.
bar and I'm like, "Oh, what are you gonna drink, dude?" And then everybody at the bar just started looking at Zane, and I'm kind of like, we're like, "What?"
And I was like, "Oh, I'll have a water. Why?"
But I go like, "Listen, dude. One of the things that happens is that, for the most part, if you do drink and you're an avid beer drinker, you like to bring beer to great times, right? You bring them to I'm Mexican, so we bring them to funerals sometimes just to make it better.
Yeah.
But really, what we're trying to do is we're trying to make.
Tell me an event you don't bring beer to, and I don't want to go to that
seriously.
event.
We're in the business of making
if
shitty
it's
times
amazing, you need it. If it's a horrible event, you need it. I don't like it. Whatever. if it's medium, you need it.
So
Take it to one or the other.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's over the course of time. Guess what's going to happen? You're going to start associating this beverage and all its variants with particular moments in your time, right? And in your life. And sometimes I'm going to drink a beer that's maybe not that good on paper, right? But
What does that mean?
well, let's say that somebody, an early brewer that doesn't really have
like a craft beer.
like a craft beer,
Not a macro. Okay, sure.
not a macro,
Yeah.
but it kind of like ties into the macro conversation
it.
where I go, it's not necessarily about the beer itself. It's about where you're having that beer and who you're with and kind of what the overarching theme of that pinpoint of time is. It's kind of like, I might not like this beer. And quite honestly, on a blind taste test, I might call it shitty 9 times out of 10. But for whatever fucking reason, where I'm at right now in this bar
Yeah.
with you and you and you,
Yeah.
this beer is not going back. I'm drinking this beer
Yeah.
and I'm gonna enjoy it. And
Yeah.
you know what? At the end of the night, I'm gonna say I really liked that place.
Yeah.
And everyone's gonna tell you, oh, that place? No, that place is shit. They don't even know how to fucking make an IPA. I'm like, maybe you're right, but you know,
I saw someone that gave Yosemite National Park 1 star on Yelp because they couldn't find parking. And they're like, this is bullshit. There's not enough parking. They should put in more parking. I'm like, you were at a fucking national park. Fucking find a spot and walk. Like, you figure it out. They're not out of parking. You might have just had to walk farther, but that's what it's fucking built for. One. This is horrible. Where are the fucking rides?
bullshit park.
But that's it. And so people will say, like, what's the best drink you've ever had? And I was like, this one. And you know, it kind of goes back to this. Like, you know, when you go off and you have like you go wine tasting.
Yeah.
And really the point of wine tasting is for them to get you to join their wine club. And you go off and you have the wine, and whether you join the club or you get a bottle, you're drinking like, this is amazing. And you're having it, you know, in Napa or wherever it is, probably not Temecula, but you're having it someplace. and you're having a great time, and you're with friends, and you're a little loopy, and you're just having a fantastic day, and you drink this wine, and the person who serves you the wine tells you about it. Oh, this has this terroir. You can taste a little bit of the minerals of the earth, and it has a little bit of a cranberry, and you're drinking, like, oh my God, that's amazing. You're right. And then you buy that bottle, you go home, and then a month later you have friends over. You guys gotta have to try this wine that you pour. You're gonna love it. You're gonna love it. You're like, what just happened?
Fuck, this just
Every
ruined my
time.
party.
I got fooled. You know, well, fucking drink it anyway. Let's make some new memories. But look, if I'm drinking the beer, and for whatever reason I don't think the beer is very good, and it's not going to make me sick, I'm going to finish it. I don't like, you know what I mean? Like, it's whatever.
Well, look, dude, if Zane Lamprey takes us to a bar, his favorite bar, and he just happens to love fucking Coors Banquet, and that's all they have on tap, and we're about to enjoy this awesome moment and hear some amazing stories, I don't give a fuck that they only have a particular beer that I might not even enjoy on tap. In fact, I don't give a fuck if they clean the lines or not. We're going.
Yeah.
We're sitting down for as long as I need
Yeah.
to sit down, because there's something bigger that's happening right now. And the beer or the pint of fucking whatever, the whiskey, whatever, it's just an embellishment. It's just a cherry on top of what you're about to experience.
Mm-hmm.
And some people just need to be doing shit with their hands. Some people just need to be they can't go outside without smoking a cigarette, not because they're crazy about cigarettes. It's just like, oh, this is what I do. This is what's going to facilitate this moment for me right now.
Yeah.
And it's going to add a little bit of flavor to this moment. That's how I look at beer. I've never gotten too snobby about it, because once you start getting snobby, you rob yourself the pleasures of like what you do for a living.
Can you imagine like being like, so like, and someone listening is probably this, but like you start to learn about wine, and you really educate yourself on wine to the point you get to this turning point where you only want to have like this very expensive wine, and now you're like, what have I done? I've ruined it for myself, where now I need to spend $100 on a bottle of wine because like, why did I do this? And then you get into the pomposity and the, you know, just the arrogance or whatever it is that we associate with a wine snob. And you've seen it in beer, you know, you've seen it in beer, and like, and the people that are talking about like, you know, the politics behind the brewery, or, you know, talking about something, and just like, oh my God, just shut up and
beer.
just drink the beer. I was at a brewery, I forget where it was. I wish I could remember it. And I'm drinking, and the brewer's there, and he's like, hey, you want a beer? I'm like, yeah, sure. And he gave me like a PBR. I'm like, thanks. It's so in the brewery.
Yeah.
I'm like, fuck it. What do I care?
This bullshit that I made.
Yeah. I mean, his beer was amazing, but he's like, I don't know, it's just whatever. It's like I do this. I make this every single day. Like, just drink this one. It's like, yeah, it was fine. Didn't mean I wasn't going to keep drinking his beer, but I had that one. It was fucking amazing.
As a man with the most distinguished palate probably on the fucking continent, right?
Wow.
Like, you name
Distinguished, I don't know if that's the correct word. Maybe experience. I've tasted some shit from a guy who's
it's
literally
all right. Beer's not fucking
drank a bottle of rum with a dead snake in it. Then yes, okay. My palate's seen some
beer,
shit.
wine, and spirits. You don't have to get so hoity-toity about it. It's not fucking bouillabaisse or whatever the fuck it is. And look, you don't have to get too crazy about
Yeah.
it. As a guy that has really found the essence behind what the spirit beer wine is about, which is it really is
People.
beyond that. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? It's really beyond that. And everybody seems to accept it in food. Everybody seems to just completely just be like, oh yeah, of course. Food is about community. Food is about the dinner table. Food is about meeting people. But when you start talking about, catching a buzz and having it have a correlation towards the same sort of philosophy or mission, people kind of write it off. So thank you for everything that you've done on that front.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
thank
Like,
you. Yeah, of course, my pleasure.
yeah, dude. No,
It's,
honestly,
I'm having fun doing it. I'm not done yet, though.
oh hell no.
Okay, good.
Fuck no, you're not done. And what also,
I get 50 years left. That'll do.
dude,
That'll be
you
fun.
get great stories. You meet interesting people. You have interesting conversations.
Present company included. Ooh. But
Are we friends now?
but
I
not
don't know.
Rick.
I wouldn't go that far yet. I wouldn't go that far yet. I don't know. No, but honestly, dude, thanks for giving us a little
Of
bit of time.
course.
I hope that anytime that you are in San Diego, we get to sit down and talk.
A lot of times we have like Booze Brothers is an amazing space. You guys are in for
I
a good show.
love this
It's so nice. That is a proper stage and venue in there.
And the beer's fucking
But
good.
and the beer's great. And a lot of times we do it in the actual brewery space. We've done it, we're doing the show at breweries, and when breweries are not normally equipped. 1 out of 10 is like this, where they actually
Yeah,
have a stage or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
The rest of the time, you're just like, no, let's figure it out, let's make it work. People have a good time because they're part of it. They, I'm coming to them. We're at a local brewery. We're supporting them, buying a ton of beer, laughing, having a great time.
I know that Misfortune brought like that whole different.
Who's she?
What's
I don't-
up?
Misfortune?
Misfortune.
I don't like her. I don't like her already.
She's kind of my wife.
Yeah.
Whatever. But I don't like to talk about
Sorry,
her on
bro.
camera.
I married her, but yeah.
But whatever. No, but like I know that COVID and everything kind of thrust this new way of touring for you, but it couldn't have been the coolest thing for our industry.
I love it.
It couldn't be more cool for our
Yeah,
industry, man.
it's fantastic.
You're helping a lot of small, just passionate
Yeah.
artisans stay in business a lot in fucking A.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
My pleasure. I'm not stopping. 100 more breweries for the rest of the year. And then
100 breweries, 100 shows.
100 breweries, 100 shows. Probably a little bit more than that. I'm doing about 130 a year. So
Jesus.
yeah. And I just keep going. Like I could have switched over to theaters this year, and I'm like, no, I'm gonna do breweries again. And we'll see. We'll see what happens
He's the
next
most
year.
highly functioning drunk that I've ever read in my life.
Thank you
Jeez.
so much. Thank you so much.
Man, that's the highest compliment that I can offer. Zane Lamprey, real quick before we
Yes.
but we cut it off.
Yeah.
Where can people find you? Where can people listen to you?
Just go to zanelamprey.com. Go there. You'll see all the tickets wherever you're listening to this. If you're in the U.S. And in soon in other countries, but I'll be at a brewery near you. We're doing stand up. I have an amazing opener. You guys will see it tonight. It's a very, very fun show.
Dude, I've seen some of your work already, and I can't wait.
Thank you.
All right, man. Cheers, dude. Thank you
Cheers.
so much, man. I appreciate you.